Welcome, everybody. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy healer, energy coach, and trainer. Yeah, my job is to maybe help you with interpreting what your inner guidance is conveying to you. I want to make a quick remark here. I'm turning off my camera to show you something. And what this MP3 download that you've received for this session, what this actually means. There's no words with this, it's just music, but it has a metronome mixed into it. And I usually describe this in the description for the file, namely a theta metronome. And I have received a few questions about this. So I was one of the few people that actually utilized a metronome for deep meditation and energy sessions, knowing that when our personal state shifts, our perception shifts. And so there is obviously the spontaneous shift that we can experience when we are, for example, in a dream state. This is the most common one, the most familiar one to people, where even if you're not familiar with lucid dreaming or meditation, but where you feel that you have access to a truer, manipulated part of you, even though most of our dreams are actually more of a recycling function of our psyche and therefore not to be taken literal. However, I think it's interesting for you to know what the deeper meaning of this theta metronome is. So the beta state of our brain is the normal everyday state. It's a relatively fast and erratic state. Yeah, this is why it's so easy for us to get distracted. The alpha state, that's what you feel when you maybe read a book or sunbathe or when you are taking a walk. Yeah, this is a relaxed state. This is also something here. It says here when dreaming, but it's more like when daydreaming. Yeah, so when you're in that state of hypnotic learning, so some of these language courses, they use an alpha metronome in the background. The theta state comes in two different variations in two different octaves, and here is very interesting for some of you to note that 8 hertz is the frequency on which the planet Earth, planet Gaia or Gaia, vibrate, which means that this is a very deep state that we often only experience in deep, deep connection with nature. It's also sometimes called the shamanic state. Yeah, it's when you can connect with nature spirits really well. This is something that people typically only experience when they are in this sort of half awake, half dream state. This is the state that we are targeting when we're meditating. And this can help us to bypass, say, our ego cognition. Yeah, so everything that comes in through our personality, through, all the things that we think we need to do, the critical inner voice, the judgments, and so forth. There is a second theta state, which is an even lower frequency. So when we talk about actual electromagnetic or sound frequency, when we're talking about a lower frequency, that's actually a slower vibration, which induces higher states in us. So that's the confusing part here, because on one hand, we're looking at the material, the physical aspect of our brain, of our physical brain, and on the other hand, we're looking at the perception and the energetic states that it induces. So the slower your brain, the closer you get to your true self or higher self, if you will. Now, the 8 hertz state is a state where you really want to fall asleep. It's something that your physical body really only knows as a sleep state. That's why so many people have issues with meditating. That's why so many people fall asleep. when they're trying to meditate, because the body doesn't really know what to do in this brain state. Yeah, all it knows is to go to sleep. Now, you can imagine that if you go even slower, that is a state that most people don't actually, unless they train it, ever experience in a conscious way. It'd be something like a really, really sort of knocked out kind of deep sleep, okay, where you're really not fully there. That is something that lucid dreamers and frequent meditators aim for as a state where you can have the purest access to your inner guidance. And the relevance here with in conjunction with connecting with your true self is that we all have to break through these barriers of our perception. First, we have this collective barrier that is invisible for most of you. It's like the collective unconscious that is triggering our thinkingness, yeah, the part that makes it so hard for you sometimes to fall asleep at night. Yeah, when you're laying in bed and you can't turn off your thinking, that's something that is induced by our collective unconscious. It's always going. Yeah, it's always on. The second barrier of perception is the one that has to do with your personal stuff, with your personal triggers, traumas, shadow, and the things that you perhaps that are torturing you in your own head, the regrets that you have, the the guilt that you have, or the stuff that you where you feel inadequate and so forth. So there is a little bit of a challenge when you want to go deeper and connect with your true self, because you have to get through these two barriers at first. And when you do, so you're working your way from beta into alpha, hopefully. In alpha, you still have conscious thoughts, into theta. And when it's that moment, I call this the drool moment, when you really sort of, when you can hear yourself snoring, when you no longer, when your body's asleep, but part of you is still awake. The inner witnesser is still awake. This is the part that we really want. The delta state, that's only for extremely experienced and trained meditators, is a sort of a near-death kind of state. Yeah, this isn't easy to maintain the witnesser state, and is therefore not really what we're aiming for. We're aiming for this theta state here, 8 hertz. Yeah, the same frequency as the earth, because that helps us to harmonize.